A warm welcome to you all. Are you an internationally qualified nurse or midwife and looking to migrate to Australia? If yes, listen up and watch until the end. I'm sure the information here will assist you in understanding the required steps you need to take as you make a start on your migration journey to realize your goal of migrating to Australia. I'm sure you've all heard and read about what a great place Australia is to live. This beautiful land abounds with opportunities and flourishes with migrants from all corners of the world. Let's look at why Australia keeps attracting people from all walks of life as the preferred migration destination. Now, when it comes to you as a nurse, there is an abundance in career opportunities. In fact, your occupation is very much in demand and it's in the critical sector shortage list. It is anticipated by the year 2030 that Australia would need an additional 100,000 nurses. In addition to that, your occupation is also listed on the medium to long term strategic skills list that enables you to apply for permanent residency from your home country. Should your permanent residency be granted, you have a future pathway to citizenship. Last but not the least, would like to say your working environment. So, working as a nurse in Australia will enhance your experience by working in some of the top hospitals in the world in an advanced economy. So, you definitely gain an upliftment in your skills as well as your experiences. In addition to what's been shared over here, I'd also like to highlight some of the strong points to Australian economy. So, one is Australia's education system and healthcare, which are both free and accessible to the public. It helps set you up for further progress in your career if you like to take additional educational courses. I'd also like to call out Australia's long standing immigration program. This, over the decades, has been attracting a wealth of talent, which has truly made Australia a multicultural state. In fact, if I look at the nursing profession itself, one in three of all registered nurses in Australia were born overseas. Lastly, Australia's stable economy and the balanced lifestyle is a big drawcard for many who look to migrate to Australia to raise their families. Now, before I go on with the remaining parts of the process, explaining the steps and the relevant stages, I'd like to spend a few minutes and talk about the firm. My name is Gavin Taylor, and I'm the founder and principal of Prestige Legal Group. I'm an Australian lawyer and registered migrant agent with Umara. We are a boutique legal services firm solely focused on Australian immigration and citizenship law. We serve clients in Australia and from across the world in resolving and dealing with most complex visa, immigration, and citizenship matters. We assist employers in Australia on employer sponsored visas and visa compliance. We support professionals and families both in Australia and overseas with their immigration matters and fulfilling their needs. Our profound knowledge and experience with Australian immigration law and its application procedures empower us to seamlessly handle all matters and ensure the right outcomes are achieved. Now, let's look at the regulating authorities when it comes to the healthcare profession. AHPRA is the governing body that regulates the Australian health care practitioners. It works with 15 national boards to help protect the public and ensure all of the healthcare workers are regulated. The Nursing and Midwifery Board, this is the regulatory body that looks after the nursing practice in Australia. They serve to protect the public and ensure all nursing practitioners meet the prescribed standards and remain registered during their profession. You do notice the titles registered nurse, nurse practitioner, and enrolled nurse. These are all protected titles that require registration and ongoing endorsement from the Nursing and Midwifery Board to continue working in these occupations. Let's move to look at the eligibility and the qualification requirements to become registered as a nurse. First, you're required to show 450 hours of recognized clinical experience in the last 5 years. You should have completed an equivalent education that satisfies AHPRA's standards. You meet the English language proficiency standards set by AHPRA. You pass the required qualifying exams, gain registration, and you also need to provide professional references from the medical bodies in your respective countries. Now, in terms of the actual process, I would break them up into three stages. Let's look at stage one. In this stage, you would need to satisfy the registration requirements from both the Nursing and Midwifery Board and AHPRA before being recognized to meeting the stage one requirements. This would include the application process, paying the relevant assessment fees, completing the orientation program that's required, sharing all relevant documents with the assessing authorities for them to start the assessment. Stage two, subject to you clearing all of the required steps in stage one, you'll move on to stage two, where you'll be notified based on the stream. You would proceed to complete the actual examinations that need to be taken. For this video, we are focusing on stream B, as this applies to most internationally qualified nurses and midwives. Now, once you've been notified, you'll need to complete two exams, the first of them being the NCLEX exam. And on passing this exam, you'll need to take the OSCE exam, which is another clinical exam that is conducted on site here in Australia. Stage 3, this is when you have been notified that you have met all of the compulsory requirements for registration. Here, you will be invited to apply for your formal registration with AHPRA, pay the relevant fees for your registration and application, and wait for your registration to be completed. Now, let's take a deep dive into the actual steps that need to be completed across the three stages. I'll spend some time and go through each one of them in detail so that you understand the activities involved. Step 1. At this step, you're required to create your login details and sign up using the net. Here, the first step will be to complete a free self-check and have yourself validated against the NMBA's eligibility criteria listed here. So you'll have to meet all three criteria and provide your personal information, your educational qualifications, any awards that you've received as part of your study, and experience details, including the geography that you're currently based. Once you submit this information, the NMBA body will review and advise you on under which stream you will fall so that you can complete the remaining part of the assessment process. Step 2. When you're notified of your particular stream, as I said earlier, in this video we're focusing on stream B. You'll be notified by the assessment portal to make a payment of Australian dollars 410 so that the assessment application can progress to the next step. Do note, if you are advised that you fall under stream A, this applies only if you worked or studied or already registered as a nursing practitioner in the USA, the UK, Canada, Ireland, and New Zealand. The process is different from registration and is not covered in this particular video. We will move on to step 3. In step 3, you'll actually required to complete an orientation program. This is an online program, an e-learning module, which requires you to understand the Australian healthcare industry and the role of nurses in the healthcare system. This will take approximately 60 to 90 minutes to complete. Once complete, you will be able to proceed to the next step of the process. Step 4. Once you've completed the orientation part 1, you'll be asked to upload your documents into the portfolio page of the assessment portal. Here, you'll require to attach proof of identity, that is your passport documentation or any other identity that you can provide, your qualification documents, your course details, any academic awards and relevant study that you've completed. Do ensure all documents that are submitted are duly attested as per the AHPRA guidelines. Failure to do so will have your application rejected. Once approved in this step, you'll be asked to complete the outcome based assessment process. Step 5. This is the first of two exams as part of the outcome based assessment process. This is an online exam that can be completed in your home country, and the exam is run by Pearson VUE via the test centers. This exam is a multiple choice question which has up to 145 questions, and you have a duration of 5 hours to complete it. Once the exam is complete, you'll be notified if you have passed the exam through the assessment portal. Step 6. Congratulations on passing the NCLEX exam. You are now one step closer. The OSCE is the second exam that you're required to complete and pass. Unlike the NCLEX exam, this exam is conducted on site in Adelaide, South Australia. You will be notified to register for the OSCE exam and pay the fees before making arrangements to travel to the test centre, Adelaide Health Simulation, AHS, in Australia to complete the exam. This clinical exam will assess your skills and competence as a graduate nurse. There will be 10 stations or 10 clinical scenarios that you'll have to complete within a strict 10 minutes allocated to you. On passing this exam, you'll progress to the next step. Step 7. Congratulations on passing the OSCE examination. Now you have finally completed all of the compulsory requirements for registration. You will be advised that you can proceed to make an application for registration with AHPRA and pay the due application fees of Australian dollars 475. Once you had applied, it usually takes between 4 to 6 weeks for your registration to be completed. Step 8. Hurrah! You are now a registered nurse in Australia. This is the final step of the process. You're required to complete a second e-learning module. This is the orientation part 2 that requires to be completed post-registration. This will provide you with a more in-depth orientation of the Australian healthcare context. You have a period of 6 months from the date of registration to complete the same. This concludes the registration process for you as a nurse. Now that you have achieved your goal on being a registered nurse, let's move to look at the migration process to Australia. There are a few different pathways that you can take to migrate to Australia. For this video, we are focusing on the general skilled migration pathway of directly applying for permanent residency from your home country via the subclass 189, the skilled independent visa, or the subclass 190, the state sponsored visa. Here again is a 3-step process. Let's look at step 1 in the process. This is where you'll actually check your basic eligibility criteria for both visas and validate if you meet them. You're required to be under the age of 45 years at the time of being invited. You're required to have a positive skills assessment for your nominated occupation. So be it a registered nurse, an enrolled nurse, or a nurse practitioner. Based on your successful registration, you will be able to apply for a skills assessment from AHPRA and obtain the same. You're also required to meet the English language requirements for these visas. Now, given your recent registration process with AHPRA, you should definitely have this completed, and you will be able to utilize the same results for your migration process, subject to validity. Finally, you will be requested to meet the health and character requirements as prescribed under these visas. That is, there should be no criminal offenses, you're of good character and of health before applying for these visas. Do note, when applying for these visas, you can include your spouse and any dependent children in the application. Moving on to step 2. Once you have assessed yourself against the criteria for these two visas, you then proceed to make a formal expression of interest for the respective visa subclasses. Once you've validated you meet the requirements for both visas, you can proceed to submit an EOI via Skill Select and wait to be invited. For some states, in addition to the EOI, you'll also need to submit an ROI, which is a registration of interest that is required for the states to assess and decide if they would like to nominate you. Now, the Immigration Department, the state and territories will access your information both in the EOI and ROI applications, and based on the overall points, they will decide whether to invite you for either the subclass 189 or the subclass 190 visa. Now, the final step in the migration process is the nomination and invitation stage. When you receive an invitation, you are required to respond within a set period to complete the application process. I would like to clarify the process is slightly different for the subclass 189 versus the subclass 190. I'll look to cover the subclass 189 visa first, followed by the subclass 190. For the subclass 189, once you receive an invitation, you have 60 days to submit a valid application and attach all relevant documents and necessary evidence to support the claim towards your points. Once your application is submitted, you'll have to wait for the processing to be completed before receiving a visa outcome. When notified of your successful visa grant, you would need to travel to Australia before the period indicated in the grant letter to activate your permanent residency visa. Now, for the subclass 190, when you're invited by a state or territory government for nomination, you are first required to respond within 14 days and submit all documents and evidence to prove that you have claimed your points based in the EOI and ROI. These documents will need to be reviewed by the state government and before a final decision is taken to approve your sponsorship for nomination. From there, you have 60 days to make a valid visa application to the department with all necessary evidence towards the points you've claimed in the EOI and to validate that you meet the criteria for the visa. Once submitted, you'd have to wait for the processing to be complete before understanding the visa outcome. Again, on being granted the subclass 190, you would have to travel to Australia by a certain period indicated in your grant letter to activate your permanent residency visa. Now, this concludes the migration process. I would like to thank you for making it this far in the video. I hope the information provided here was beneficial and provides a sound understanding of the steps required to achieve your goal. If you would like us to assist with your migration pathways and registration process as a nurse, do connect with us. We work with educational partners who can assist you with coaching and preparation for both the NCLEX and the OSCE exams. This would be beneficial for you to undertake before you sit the actual exam. We guide you on the best strategies and take you through the migration process as we work on your behalf with the Immigration Department to ensure your application has the best chance of success. If you'd like us to assist with your matter, please use the information on the screen to connect with us directly so we can be of assistance. We thank you again for taking your time. We hope this video was really beneficial to you. Do give us a like and share this video with your friends and acquaintances. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notified when we release new content. This helps us grow and reach of the channel as we educate others on the opportunities available. We continue to share good content so you can stay updated on all the changes as you carefully consider your decision to migrate to Australia. We hope to meet you soon and assist with your migration needs.